Welcome to SAS Programming Master Classes by Naidu. I'm a SAS trainer and as well as programmer with 15 years of domain experience. In this particular class, I'm going to talk about input methods. What are the different input methods we do have in SAS? So the purpose of input method is just to read the data into SAS. It is just to understand how SAS able to read those columns. One by one column, how SAS is reading, we are going to learn in this in SAS. So let me just go through the agenda concept. We do have a different input methods in SAS, like mainly four input methods in SAS, like list input method, name input method, column input method, and formatted input method. First, I will talk about all these input methods. Apart from that, I'm going to discuss about some input methods like what is the use of colon modifier and what is the use of ampersand sign, what is the use of single trailing method means, what is the use of double trailing, okay, and what is the line pointer, what is a column pointer. I'm going to talk about all this purpose. The total purpose of the class is just to reading a data into SAS environment by using different input methods. Okay, we write everything with input statement only, so I'm going to explain that stuff in this particular class of today. So as usual, I have already given a task for you on this particular class at the below of this particular video. Just watch it and let me know if you have any questions or concerns. I'll explain to you. And please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And please tell to your friends that so these particular videos are really helping your career. Please just follow it and let me know if you have any questions on it. So what I will do is let me open my SAS and explaining all this stuff in detail one by one. So let's get started. I'll explain about different input methods like list input, name input, column input, and formatted input. All the input methods, the purpose is same, reading external data into SAS environment only. There is no doubt on it. So what is this particular input methods and why we need to use one by one, we will see. In this, if you just see, I have a data with me with the name of temp. Then I'm trying to write it. Your data set name, input, employee ID, employee name, and department is the three columns we have it. To get that, even the data also you can see here in this particular data set. Employee ID 1234, employee name Rick, Lata, okay. So Lata and as well as Tushar and Pranab. But here let's have that one also 5. Maybe I'll try to write it here as Raju. I'll try to mention it here. So there we have a departments. One is IT, second one is OPS means operational department, IT, OPS, and electrical department. When I try reading this particular data into SAS environment, there will be 3 columns and 5 rows containing a data I'm trying to read. When I execute it and run the program, so employee ID 12345, you got it. Employee name Rick, Lata, Tushar, Pranab, and Raju, you are getting it. Department is IT, OPS, IT, OPS, and electric. I'm getting it. So employee ID not an issue. Employee name is not an issue. But department, if you see IT, OPS, IT, OPS, electrical, I'm expecting. But the output, what I'm getting, electric only. But electrical is the complete spelling which we have it. So the reason is department variable length is default 8 characters. It is reading it so that up to electric is only 8 character. AL won't read it into SAS at all. My interest is to read the AL into SAS environment. So we need to increasing a length. So if you want to increasing a length, make sure you need to write it before your input statement. So length of that particular variable, you write it. So that is going to be department. Then you mention the dollar sign. Okay, so department of your dollar sign, you are increasing the length of that variable. So that length can be anything. So right now, how many characters? So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 characters are there. I'm trying to write it 10. So length of that particular department variable, make sure to write it 10. And if I execute it and run the program now, I'm getting it department variable IT OPS electrical complete spelling also I'm getting it. But the problem is because of the department variable, whatever you mentioned it, that comes first, then followed by your employee ID and employee names. I'm getting it. But that is not my interest. Is I'm interested to have employee ID, employee name, and department only. But department need to be read all the values. So we'll try to keep that length statement as it is. We'll try rearranging these particular variables because employee ID to be first and employee name to be next, then followed by the department. In this case, what you can do is you can tell to your SAS by just mentioning it. Here, there is a one more concept you have you need to write it called retain. By using a retain statement, we know that already we learned in the last classes. Retain is used to rearranging the variables in a data set level. So, however the order you want it, you write it. Employee ID to be first, you write it then, followed by the employee name to be the next. You write it. You don't need to mention the dollar and all because retain is just for rearrangement, not to declaring your formats or anything. So now I declared my variables in the order however I want it. I got it employee ID, employee name, and department, and everything is nice and clean right now. So employee ID is reading, employee name is reading, and employee department also reading. Electrical with complete spelling, I'm getting it. So this particular method we call it as a list input method. This is the SAS default method. We can say so the thing is, in the list input method, there are several rules in it. Rule number one is whenever one particular column to another column, you need to maintain at least a single space. You see that one to Rick, employee ID to employee name, single space. Rick to IT, there will be a single space is required. If you have more than one space, that's not an issue, but at least single space is required. That's a mandatory one. That's rule number one. Rule number two is whenever there is no data, let's say I have a Raju is the information, but there is no data for here. When I try executing and run the program, see what happened until fourth record only it is reading it. The fifth one won't read it. Go there and check your log. It is showing employee ID 5. Employee name is reading as a electric and department is showing as a error underscore n underscore equal to observation number 5 we have an error it is showing it. That's the reason why the fifth record not read into SAS environment. Understand what I'm trying to do here? Yeah, so the fifth record of mine, so I'm trying to read it, so it is not allowing me and to read it. So the mistake is here, whenever there is a missing value, make sure to missing value mention with a period sign. This dot we call it as a period. Whenever we just mention it, so now you can see the fifth record also reading it. So now, even though I mentioned the period for employee name variable, it's not appearing anything. It's appearing like a blank. The reason is default character missing value of my employee name. Even though you mentioned the dollar sign, it will be reading like a blank only. That's the default of your SAS. So employee ID, employee name, and department reading nice and clean. So the next one I'm trying to do is year. Okay. So rule number 3 is whenever you want to increasing a length of the variable, we need to use a length statement to increasing that variable length. Only numeric variables, only character variables only we can able to use a length statement for it. So for up to 10, 30, 40, 60 like that. So maximum I can write it up to 32,777 32,767 bytes or character. That is your 32 KB of your file size. Only we can able to increase it your column names by default. So by default is 8. If you want to extend more than that, you can extend it up to 32 KB. We can extend it. So that's the rule number 3. Rule number 4 is data must be reading in a order. Suppose if you have an employee day, employee name and department, even the variables also reading on the same order. First to be employee day, then followed by your employee name, then followed by the department. It will try go in an order, left to right order. So all these four rules you need to keep in mind while working with this particular list input method. So this is just to read external data into SAS environment by using cards or data line statement. We try maintaining this particular lengths and spaces and all to reading external data into SAS environment. We just done with it. So this is called list input method. Any questions on the list input method before I move on? Anyone?
Sir,
Yes, please.
can we increase length of all variables at a time?
We can do it. So you need to mention it all the variables in the length statement, but length will be increased only for character variable length. Only we can increase it, not the numeric ones. Got it?
Okay, means so we
Employee
have to
name
mention all
department
the
only is a
variables.
possible you can increasing the length, but all the variable length you need to mention each and every variable in the length statement. Imagine the employee name also you are expecting to increasing a length. You make sure to write it employee name then dollar sign and try to make sure how many characters you want it for the employee ID also employee name also. Like that within a one length statement, multiple variables I can write it with dollar sign and mentioning the size of that particular column. We can do that. Yeah, in this way we can write. Definitely possible.
Okay. And instead of retain, we can also use varnam. Is
Varnam is the statement is used to display the variables in a order in the proc contents. Okay, proc contents, it is not for displaying of your data, your properties of the data set while you are just writing it. You want it in an order. We want it. So Varnam statement. But we're coming to this one. So here, if you want to rearrange it, we can write a var statement in the proc step if you required. So you have learned this concept, right? By using a var, we can rearranging the variables in output level if you want it. But that will be rearranging the variables in output level. You're really interested to do some changes in a data set level, then go for retain is the only way to just rearranging the variables in a data set. Clear?
yes, sir.
Shall I move to the next?
One more question. For example, if I have columns from A to Z, okay, in a particular data set, and I want to just change A to C or D. Until that, I want the naming conventions to change the order and the remaining to be the same. So how can we do
You do
this
one
in
thing then.
local?
So you are trying to write it. Employee, see, employee ID is required, department is required, but I haven't mentioned the employee name. Is it okay? In the retain statement, whatever you mention it, only that variables will come. Remaining won't automatically. It will be a last variable only. Whatever the order you have written in the retain statement, only that is going to be your first. Then the rest all will be the next preference. Making sense to you? Clear?
Yes,
Only two
yes.
things I need to bring it. You have around 80 variables, but only two variables I need to bring. Remaining 78 variables, let it be the order, however it is. That's not a matter to you. That mentioned it retain statement only that two variables to get it first. Remaining variables you can leave it as it is. Shall I move to the next? Agree? Okay. So now there is a one more method called name input method. Actually, the list input method fails certain reasons. When it is, whenever there is a space in the data, like a John Kennedy is the space. Suppose imagine I want to write it, Mr. Space Pranab, I want to read it. That's what my interest is. So when I'm just writing this particular value, okay, execute it and run the program, it won't allow you. So it will try to read it. Mr. is going to be your employee name. Department is going to be Pranab. It is reading it. I don't think so. We are not expecting this. Am I right? I'm expecting Mr. Pranab should be under my employee name only. But because of the single space, as consider that Mr. is going to be one column and Pranab is going to be another column, it is trying to read. So that's the reason why you won't get it. Imagine data, your data set name temp, employee day, employee name and department, data lines, employee ID 10, 11, 12, and as well as missing. Employee name is Raju, John, Kennedy, Jack, and Moses. Department is IT, bank, finance, and security, you're writing it. I'm trying to create a new data set name called data temp. So there we are writing it Raj, John, Kennedy, and Jack, and Moses. You are getting it here. Okay, so the thing is here, what I'm trying to do is I want it, the space containing a data, we can read it under this particular name input method. Employee ID equal to, employee name equal to, department equal to, we can write it. When you execute it, now you can see, so you can see employee ID 10, 11, 12, and missing. Yeah, it's reading, that's fine. But employee name is Raju, but John Ken only you are getting it. Even though space is in the middle, that's not really matter. I can able to handle it because in this column input method, we need to specify each and every time the column name. Employee ID equal to, employee name equal to, department equal to, and all we used to write it for every row. So even though the space containing the data, it is reading it, but it's truncating because as you already know that I need to use the length statement, length, length of my length length of my variable of my e name, employee name, should be with dollar sign. I'll roughly give it some 12 characters long. Okay, now check that. I can read it. John Kennedy is the complete spelling. I'm getting it. But here, the employee name comes first, employee ID, then followed by the department. I want to rearrange it. As you already know that, I can use a concept name called retain. By using a retain, we can rearranging the variables. First should be employee ID. I'm expecting. Then followed by the employee name. Then followed by the, okay, so department, you are expecting that particular variable to be order. So now you can see that you got an order, even the space containing a data also I can able to read. So list input method, the space containing a data, it is failed. If you want to read it, we can depend on the column input method to increasing or maybe to read that space containing data also into SAS environment. This method is called name input method. We try to write the variable names every time again and again for every column, every row also. Employee ID equal to, employee name equal to, department equal to, employee ID equal to, employee name equal to, department equal to. Like multiple times we try to write it in SAS. But yeah, this is also another way of reading the data. And there is a one more method is called column input method. We try writing this particular column input method with ranges, the column ranges we call it. Default, you try to see, okay, employee ID is the first variable. I'll try to keep it here, employee ID. Okay, then employee name and department is there. 14 Rick IT, perfect. 241 Dan and OPS. But the problem is 241 to Dan, there is no space in the space in it in the middle. That's what the problem is. And 30 Sanvi and IT, not a problem. Again 410 with Chanchala OPS, there is space again missing. And 52 with some space in the here, a space in the data. That means whenever there is a missing value, need to be mentioned with the period sign according to our list input method rules. But I haven't mentioned any period here, and I'm trying to read the finance department. I'm trying to read this particular data into SAS. Now you can see employee ID will be 14, employee name will be Rick, and department is IT. I'm reading it. That's fine. But employee ID for the second one, 241 only need to read. But employee name should be Dan and department should be OPS. I'm expecting, but that didn't happen. So automatically employee ID Dan is comes under my first variable only. Actually, why Dan and Chanchara spellings are displaying it? Because my data of mine is mentioned with a dollar sign. For time being, I'll remove this particular dollar sign for employee ID because employee ID is not required dollar. You see that I got only 14 Rick and IT. Remaining columns are not reading under my employee ID because it is already have with character data. But whenever you want to read any character values in SAS, and you need to make sure to write it with the, what I can say that with the dollar sign,
Dollar.
but dollar is not there. So because of that, this particular message happened. So how you can correct this particular type of data when you got it? So we will try to write a column ranges. If you see the maximum length of that particular employee ID is 3 character. So I'll just tell to my SAS, whatever you do, 1 to 3 characters within that range only the employee ID every time it is populating. You keep that. For the fourth record onwards, you just say fourth record onwards. until here. You just put your 4 to 11. Okay, so that means employee name is going to be starting from the 4 to 11 characters long of my employee name. Need to read it. Yeah. And the last one is department. I don't have any issue with other variables so that it will overlap and all. Let's keep it as it is. Don't give any lengths or anything for department. Now when you try to read it, so employee ID 14 to 41, 30 and 410 and 52, reading nice. Employee name is Rick, Dan, Sanvi, Chanchal and all. I'm reading it, and here there is no value. According to our list input method rules, whenever there is no value, the next value of your finance department value to be employee name, it should come, but it's not coming because it's a column input method. So we'll try to see all the rules. We'll try to revise it, all the rules what we have learned with our list input method rules. We'll try to see. Rule number one, whenever you want to write any variable, one column to another column, a single space is required. But actually speaking, no space is required according to your data. So right now, one employee ID to employee name, there is no space. Still, we can handle it by just mentioning this particular length 1, 2, 3 or something like that. It's just cutting the data where you want it. Rule number two is whenever there is a missing value need to be mentioned with a period sign. But here it is not required. Employee name, when I said 4 to 11, so it's a fixed input method. We also call it as a, in that particular range of the data, is there any missing values or any data is present, then only it will read. But there is no data values there, automatically it will read like a just blank only. I don't need to worry about it. Okay, the next value of finance will come here and all, because we are just fixing the positions 4 to 11. We are just fixing it so that within that particular range of the data, whatever is there, it will try to read it. If it is not there, it will read like a blank only. If it is there, whatever is available in that range, it will try to read it. Rule number three is whenever you want to increasing a length, we use a length statement in the list input method. But here, no need to use length statement. Instead of that, we try to write a column ranges 1 to 3, 4 to 11, 13 to 15, like that. We try to give a column ranges to reading the data into SAS environment. Rule number four is the data must be reading in order. First employee ID, then followed by the employee name and followed by the department, right? I'm interested to read my employee ID variable to be a last variable. Even that is also possible. I'm trying to write it employee name 4 to 11, department employee ID 1 to 3 characters. You are trying to read it. When I execute and run it now, so you got it employee name, department, and employee ID. You got it. So yeah, that's making sense. Employee name you got it, department you got it, and as well as employee ID also you are getting it, right? Even though the variable is last you are reading, but whatever you mention that particular coordinates here, automatically it will try taking it that particular range of the data when you are executing it, running it. So now you can see that employee name, department, and employee ID it's picking up. Okay, yeah, that's possible. We can do that. So this is about reading column listing. Sorry, column input methods. If you want to read the data, we can do. Sometimes we have a data something like you just say I have something called data temp. So I want to pick up the position from the starting from 1 until employee ID. I'm just writing it here. Employee ID starting at the rate 1. What is that means? This is called formatted input method. Formatted input method, we can able to tell the position number where to start. I'm just trying to tell my SAS I need to start my position number 1 onwards for my employee ID, position number 4 onwards for my employee name, position number 13 onwards for my department. I want to read it, I can read it. But how many characters it is reading? Starting from 1 onwards until 8 character, starting 4 onwards until 8 character, starting from 13 onwards until 8 characters only, it will try reading it by default. So it will try two things. Either 8 characters are not there, whenever it met the first space, it will cut there. So at the rate 1 means starting from the first position onwards until the space or until 8 character, whichever met first. So it will cut the data. In my cases, 14, that means until 2 characters you are getting it. So after the 2, it will cut the data. 241, it will take it. So after that, it will cut the data. Then at the rate 13, it will take it from there, and after that, it will cut the data. So now you are expecting to get it and execute it. So now you can see employee ID, employee name, and department. I'm just reading it. Employee ID will be 14, 241, 30, 410, and 52, you are getting it, right? No issues. Starting from 1 onwards, it's picking up. Starting from 4 onwards, I'm expecting remaining values to pick up. Yeah, I'm getting it. But the problem is, let me try doing a small mistake. Instead of chenchalas, I'll try to write it. Okay, so chenchals are something like that as a name. When I'm writing it, until chenchal only it is reading, because chanchal is the name only 8 character. Whenever you're writing any extra character, the extra characters won't read into this particular employee name. You're expecting this employee name with more than that. You want to take it even 9 characters long. Also, I want to read under my employee name. Let's tell to your SAS pick up from the 4th position onwards until 9 characters you want it. That means end limit I need to write it 9. Default 8, I don't need to mention it, but end limit is 9. I'm just mentioning it here. 9 dot. That means those many characters. Employee ID starting from the 4th onwards up to 9 characters you pick up. So that's what I'm just telling that to SAS as a 9 dot. So now you are expecting what I'm expecting here Chanchala, but yes, is expecting under my department. Actually, that is not my interest. So there is no point of having S into my second one. So I need to read this particular Chanchalas under my employee name only. You use a method called colon modifier method. What this will do is you try taking until 9 characters, or whenever you met the first space, you cut the data. So SAS employee name, make sure it will try to reading up to 9 characters long of your data. So when you execute it and run it, 9 characters long, Chanchalas is the until 9 characters, it will try to read it. Colon modifier, what it will do is whenever you have a first space or whenever you mention that length is meta, it will take the break. Suppose imagine, suppose if you have a chan space chalas or something like that, imagine if you have it, say, even though I have mentioned the 9 character, SAS will try to take it up to chan only, and chalas will be under what I can say that is under my department. So by default, by using colon modifier, we can specifically telling that where to cut it. If you have a space, you can tell that to SAS, okay, cut it until space, or even sometimes spaces also I will explain the down. We can able to define the range, what range you want it. You can mention it default 8, more than 8 characters long data also without any truncations. We can able to do with it by using this particular formatted input method. How I can say this particular method is formatted? Very simple. Whenever the format names ending with dots, that we call it as a formatted input method. Employee ID is just a numerical variable, but employee name with 9 dot, when you see that it's a 9 characters starting from 1. But which one starting from 1 means, is it starting from the 14 and all onwards it is picking up? No, starting from the ninth character onwards, starting from the 4th character onwards until 9 characters it will try to take it. So this is going to be your start limit, sorry, start position, and this is going to be your end limit, how many characters you want it. Starting from the 4th position onwards until 9 characters are required. I'm just mentioning it in this one. Yeah, we can do that. So we just use this particular method. Within the formatted input method, there are 2 categories: absolute input method and column pointers method. This is going to be absolute input method. We try to giving the positions from where to where you're picking up. If you want that position, you mention at the rate. When you want to stop it, you just mention that particular length of that variable where to stop. It will try reading it. And not only that, sometimes what happens, we can use a plus signs. At the rate is nothing but we are telling the SAS to picking the position number from starting from 1 onwards, starting from 4 onwards, starting from somewhere. I can write it, the length is 13 onwards or something like that. I want to write it. But the thing is, I want it. Let's have all the variables to be start from the starting only. But you see, name with the $12 dot I have written up to 12 characters of range I'm expecting for my name variable. And after that plus 4, that means it will try reading it starting from 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 12 characters. It is reading it. From there onwards, 4 characters I don't want it. Okay, plus 4 I'm writing it. Name with the $12 dot means default SAS will try to read up to 12 characters for name. After that, 4 characters I don't want it. The spaces of my data, whatever is there, 4 characters, I'm just skipping it. Okay, right now it is a spaces. Instead of that, if you have any text also, those text you want to skip it, not to read under my score 1, I can just do that. So right now I'm just trying to write it here. So with spaces only, I want to skip it. 4 characters of space, you try to skip it. Try reading the data from score 1. But the score 1 with the comma separated value, as you know that SAS default, it won't read that comma separated value file like 1000, 132, 1000, 015 and all, it won't read it. You're really interested to read this value, you need to make sure to mention with a colon, and within that colon you need to mention with a comma 5 dot, because the comma separated value, it is not comes under a numeric, it's not comes under a character, it's a CSV file, we can call it as our CSV. It's a comma separated value. If you want to read it, we need to mention that as a comma 5 dot, including comma, total 5 digits of your length. Then after that, 6 characters, I don't want it. Even though right now it's a spaces, but in your case, it can be a text, but you want to skip that particular text, not to read. We can just mention it plus 6. Score 2, I'm writing it. So score 2 also comma with 5 dot, I'm writing it. So now when I try to execute it and reading the data, I think I'm just reading it. Go to your dataset name called scores, work library, scores dataset is created. Name Relay and Anderson is the names nicely getting it. Score 1 and score 2 variables, I'm getting it. But I'm expecting some commas in the middle. By default, when you write it just in format, that is just a comma 5 dot and comma 5 dot like this, it won't display. You're really interested to have this particular comma containing a data for your score 1 and score 2 be displayed in the output. We need to mention it as a format. Within that format, you need to mention the variables of your score 1, then another variable called score 2. Both variables also you need to mention. Okay, so both variables I need it in the form of a comma 5 dot format. I'm expecting, I'll just mention the both variable with comma 5 dot. I'll just write it so that both values will be displayed in the form of a commas in your data set also. If you want it, you see now 1132, 187 and all. But why 187? Is it any truncations happen? I'm expecting start reading from plus 6 character. Because of that, it may be a cost. I'll try to read it until 5 characters only. You leave it. Don't leave the 6th character. I'm trying to read. Go to your data set. Now I'm just reading it nicely. So I can able to get my score 1 and score 2 data. Also, it's reading. Yeah, that's not an issue at all. So this particular method, we call it as a column pointer method. We try to give a column positions from where to where you want to pick up. We are just writing it. So these are the different methods what we use in SAS to reading external data into SAS environment, list input, column input, formatted input, and name input methods what we have in SAS. Apart from that, there are additional methods also we do have in SAS to reading external data into SAS. It is not always necessary that we need to create a data set, always input cards and all. Without writing that also we can create a data set. So here you can just see I'm trying to write it my data. Data test is your data set name. A equal to 20, B equal to 30, C equal to high there. So you can see you can write it. But you can see that A equal to 20, 30 is a numerical variables what you're trying to create it. But C equal to high there is a character. How I can say that? When you mention that particular variable with the quotations, it can be a single or double quotation. We'll consider that particular variable as a character variable. When I try reading it, execute it and run the program, so new dataset is created with the name of test. So what is that? That's a test dataset is created. There one observation and 3 variables containing a dataset is just got created. One row created like this, that's making sense without using any cards or inputs and all. So that means basically if I try writing it this particular lines into one particular row, so A equal to 20, B equal to 30, C equal to high, there one row is created. I'm expecting to create a one more row here at the down. I'm writing it as a equal to 200, B equal to 300, C equal to high here. I'm trying to write it here. Okay, just imagine high here. When I try to execute it and run the program, so the only one record you will get it 200, 300, high here only you will get it, but high there is gone. The reason A20, B30 and C high here will be get overwritten with A200, B300 and C high here. No, that's not my interest. I'm expecting both values also to keep in my data set. We use a statement called output. When you mention it, this particular data set, this particular row, whenever it is created, immediately will be get stored as a new row into your new data set of your test, and this will be another row. So output statement is mandatory for 2 rows. Now automatically you can get that 2 records of your data set is created. It's not necessary that always we use cards or data line statement to reading the data sets. or maybe to creating a data set. Without using that also we can read it. And we are coming to here, sometimes the data is something like this. Just imagine I want to read this type of data. What happens, I have a data labs, patient ID, we have week, and dose and card statement. Patient ID 100, week is 4, dose is 0.5. 1 at 1, 5 with 1.0, 1 at 2, 6 with 0.5, something like that. When I try to reading it, there is no doubt on it. Only this one will be a first row, second row, third row, fourth row, fifth row, and sixth row it is reading it. So if I execute it and run the program, only those rows I'm getting it. But what about these values? What we have it extra 102, 6 and 0.25, and 113, 6 and 1.0, 123, 7, 0.5, 126, 7, 1.0. So what happened? Is it not reading? When I execute it, that is not reading it actually. Understand? So you are interested to read these particular values nicely. We need to just tell to your SAS by just mentioning a statement called double trialing. At the rate, you need to mention twice. Earlier, we have written at the rate before of your column to mention the position number from where to pick up. When you mention at the rate, we are telling SAS whenever these particular three columns are done, cut it the data there, bring that particular data into the next row. That's what I'm just doing it. So earlier, before you run it with at the rate, I got 6 observations. But when I'm trying to run it with this particular dose with PID week dose with at the rate, so PID week and dose, it will try to read it as a first row, 1 at 1, 5, 1.0, it will read it as a second row. After that, it will cut it, and 1 at 2 and 6 and 0.25 will be in the third row. Then like that, it will cut it all the data. How many times? The longer ones, whatever is there, it automatically cuts for you. And when you execute it, and now you can see that 10 records containing a data when you are getting it. So earlier it is going to be 6 records, but now it's a 10 record. 4 records are got increased because of this at the rate. We are telling a SAS to pick up from which position onwards you want to pick that. Yeah, we are really mentioning that particular positions. Yeah, I'm getting it up to 10 records. This method we call it as a double trailing method. So there is one more method in SAS called single trialing method. So don't confuse with this one. It's a bit of a difficult one. Let's say I have a data with me. Take an example. I have a data, your data set name grades, input with ID at the rate, input with score at the rate, and output when I'm writing it. My interest is right now bank account with the deposit on the $79 at one time, $82 in one time, and $100 in one time in the same bank we credited. But client requirement is let's have bank ID, that is my account ID, plus 79 as one row. Again, account ID with 82 is another row. Account ID plus 100 is another row I'm expecting. I need to split this particular row into 3. So that's what my interest is. So when I write it, input with ID, with the score, with at the rate output, when the ID and as well as score it is picking up, output means one record is created. Then followed by again it will go here ID of your second row, score of your 82, and output another record is going to be created. So the next one again ID same, but I score is 100, it is picking up. When you try to execute it, run it, the same record need to be appear multiple times, but that is not happening here. I'm expecting output statement only one time. For 79 only you're getting it. You're expecting to read this particular value again for my sake. One more record, I'll just mention it now. So now what happens? Only 2 times whatever is there. See, bank account with 79 is one record, bank account with 82 is another record. I'm expecting one more time also. So you try writing it here. Bank ID will be the same always. Score, I'm trying to write it with at the rate. Now you can see that third record also created. So what happened in this case? One record of mine is splitting into multiple records. Is the same way. Imagine when one record is splitting into 3 rows, then automatically I have 4 rows in my program. When you just see the earlier one, 4 bank accounts, and 3 times each bank account is deposited. So then the total data, if you execute it, so you are going to get it something. Now you can see that 111 with 2, 3, 4, 79 is one record, 89 is one record, and all. So for one particular data, I'm getting it here. I'm missing. I need to write it. The mining things also. You just see we need to write input with the output and all. So multiple times automatically it will be created multiple rows and go there and open data set called grades, or maybe print it in the output window. Now you can see that same bank account 3 times deposit for one row, same bank account deposited 3 times for another row. Like that, total 4 records of mine, 4 into 3, 12 records is just created by just using this particular method called single trialing method, what we have in SAS. Is it clear? Any questions on it? Anyone
So,
have any question? Yes, please.
can you explain again single trailing method?
See, madam. So you try to just take it. This is one record. This is another record. This is another record. Is it okay? ID will be the same. Score for the first one, output. One record is created. ID will be the same. Score with second one, 82 is going to be one record. Output means you're just recording, keeping into that into another data set. Score, output, I'm writing it another record. Now you can see. Is it done? ID with multiple things. ID and multiple. ID and multiples. Making sense to you? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now you just go there. Okay. When I'm just executing a data grades, when I execute it and run it, yeah, it's working. So ID with score and all. So you are getting it. That's not an issue at all. I'm just trying to read it. Imagine I have a data with me. Data Naidu is there. Input statement name with place is the variable. Name I want have it something called Naidu SAS online trainer. I want to read under my name. Place I want to read under my HYD. According to this particular rules and this particular input methods, what you have learned, can anyone tell me how to read name as a Naidu SAS online trainer and place as HYD? Another one is name is Shiva. Second one is Mumbai. Which input method you will use to read this? One is a longer length with short variables. One is a longer variable and is short variable. Can we read it?
Length statement.
You use a length statement. Okay, I'll try mentioning of length of which name variable. I'll try to mention with dollar. How many characters it is? Naidu SAS online trainer starting from one trainer ending with 25. So 1 to 25 characters I'll try to, that means 25 dot I'll try to mention it. 25 I'll mention it directly, not dot. Okay, will it work? When I execute it, run the program, I'm getting Naidu and Shiva, SAS and Mumbai, I'm getting it because length statement also will pick up whenever there is a space, it will cut the data and continue into the next line. Tell me now what to do. Length is not working because it's reading only Naidu and Shiva. It's not reading the remaining at all. What will be the next then? Any other method is striking in your brain? Okay. So we'll try to use formatted method. We try to use it. Okay, we can go for it. Tell me what length you will use it here. It automatically start from one position where you want to stop. After 25 dot, 25 characters you want to give it there. I'll just mention it and read it. So there is no problem. Naidu SAS online trainer and HYD, I'm getting it. That's fine. But where is my Shiva and Mumbai? Check your log. Shiva is Mumbai. Shiva Mumbai is comes under my name only. Place variable it's going as missing. Then how I can able to read this? I mentioned with a 25 dot. So formatted input method and even that is also not sufficient. Then
The column input method.
you use a column input method. That's your interest. Tell me. We use column. So that is your range. You will write it Naidu SAS online trainer. Then Shiva is going to be short one. Automatically, that's also not going to issue, not going to work. So let me try to write it a colon. Name with dollar colon with 25. So that Naidu and Shiva, I'm getting it. SAS and Mumbai. Is it that solving? That's also not solving. We need to tell that to SAS. Cut these particular variables wherever it's a more than one space because trainer to HYD there is a multiple spaces. Shiva to Mumbai multiple spaces. If it is a single space, Naidu after that also single space, SAS after that also single space, online trainer after that also single space. But I don't need that single spaces. I need to maintain this multiple spaces containing a data. You're really interested, then what you can do is you need to tell that to SAS by just mentioning at the rate end sign. So Naidu, I'm just writing it input with the name dollar at end 25 and place and data line statement Naidu SAS online trainer HYD and Shiva and Mumbai. I'm writing it. Now you can see Naidu SAS online trainer, place is HYD and Shiva is another one and place is Mumbai. I'm getting it. Making sense? Clear? Any questions? Anyone?
So what is the use of this end?
And what it will do
Sure.
is wherever you have more than one space, okay, it will cut the data. Right now it is one space and two spaces here. I want to cut the data exactly wherever it's more than one space until 25 characters, anywhere more than one space. Naidu to SAS single space, SAS to online single space, online to trainer single space. But whenever trainer to HYD multiple spaces, then it took that as a source. Now you can just see that. Is it cutting now? Naidu SAS online trainer under my name, place is under my HYD, name is under Shiva, and place is under Mumbai.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Yep. And can just anyone tell me, this is one of the certification exam question. Data employee 1, input SSN 1 to 9, W2MT 1 to 12, data line statement, I'm trying to read it. Tell me now what happens.
SSN and these are all numerics, right? The how can dollar we can't take.
Uh-huh.
So how can we split it? We can't, right?
So how it is reading? SSN 1 to 9, WTMT 1 to 12. So what will be my first row for SSN and what is the value for my WTMT in the first row?
For first row it will be blank, I think, from 1 to 9.
Uh-huh.
And also second one also it will be blank because it is character, right? It won't read.
Mm-hmm.
It will give same observation of
Mm-hmm. Observations is same. 5 records only, 2 variables. There is no doubt. How will be the first variable? 1
2,
to
3,
9
4, 5,
characters.
6.
It will try to read under my SSN. The same row is going to be read by WTAMT also. 1 to 12 character.
Yes.
So up to 9 SMI only you will get it under 1 to 9. And James Smith is the complete spelling. I'll get it under my WTMT. So 346, 356, 356 is the common in both. Here 1 to 7, 1 to 9 it will try to read it. Another one is 1 to 12. Here Jaffrey T you will get it under my one variable. Jaffrey Tam you will get it under my WTMT. If you just check that, execute it. Can you see that? The same record is reading by twice into your input variables.
Oh,
Got it? So this is one of the certification question. Yeah, you need to keep in mind. Let's take an example. Data scores at the rate 1 with name dollar 12 at the rate 3 with score 1.
Sir, like then,
Mm.
sir, like when it is mentioned as dollar, right? Then it will read numerics.
Even numerics also will read like a character, madam. Understand?
Oh,
Okay, even though I mentioned
okay.
with dollar, so it see I'm not doing any summations or anything, right? It's reading just for displaying purpose. It's not for any calculations multiplied into 2 and all. I'm not doing it, right? Sums and all, I'm not doing it. It is just for display. No matter it's a character or numeric, it's not really matter to me. That's okay. Okay, so the next one is I have a data with me. Data scores at the rate 1 with name dollar 12 dot at the rate 3 with score 1 with 5 dot at the rate 4 with score 2 with 6 dot. Tell me what will be the value for name? What will be the value for name? You have to speak.
values can and
Values can first see. I think.
Values can see, right? Perfect. So that will be my name variable. And what about my score 1 variable?
L2 E. L2 E.
L2E, it's a 5 dot, madam.
O2I.
LUES space is comes under your 5 characters, starting with third onwards until 5 dot, right? Starting with LUES space is comes under 5th character. That is my score 1. Tell me about my score 2 value.
U E S
U2A.
U E
C space
S
C
space with a
C
in A.
CA.
Huh.
Yeah.
Check that. Am I getting the same? Values can see. Perfect answer. LUS with space. I'm getting it. UES space with CA. Perfect. Right? Okay. Take the next example. Now tell me. Name $12 dot plus 3, 5 dot plus 4, 6 dot. What is that meaning?
values space scan space CO.
Values can C O or C. Value space can space C is comes under my name.
Yeah.
After that, tell me.
0 CT 0 NT is
Plus 3 I said
eliminated.
that. What
Then
is that plus 3? After
yeah, that is eliminated.
12th character ONT, this 3
Is eliminated.
eliminated. From there onwards up to 5 characters it will take.
Up to 5.
AI and space with
EM.
E. Total 5
Yeah.
characters. Yes or no? That is my score 2. Score 1. From there onwards again 4 characters I don't want it. M, B, E, D. I don't need
Is
it.
eliminated.
From there onwards 6 characters are required. D. Okay, here onwards. D, E, D space B, L. You need to get it. Perfect.
Yeah. Yes.
Check it. Values can see AAN space with E and EDBL. You got it. Tell me the last one. Data scores input with name $12 dot, score 1 with 5 dot, and score 2 with 8. Tell me now. What is the value for name? Count it.
Up till C. First C.
Until
second,
values
that one,
can
up
see
to
the first
until
variable is correct. What about the second variable? Where it will pick up from? 5 dot means. See, no at the rate, no plus signs. Then where it will start from?
from first one it will start.
No, it won't start from first. It will start from the 13 onwards because 12 characters is already consumed by the name. 13th character onwards, 5 characters it will take it. O onwards, how many characters? 5 characters.
I.
O N T A I is comes under your score 1. What about your score 2 then?
N
N or
space
up to 8 characters you are expecting. N space 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 you are expecting. Am I right?
yes.
But the surprisingly, first 2 variables are right, but not the third variable. First 2 variables values can see ONTAI is correct, but score 2 is showing only single digit value as a C. Why it is showing single digit value? What is the difference from your score 1 variable to score 2 variable in the formats?
For score 2, period is not given.
So here period is not given. So this is not my mistake. I wantedly given this one. Understand? So if I'm not reading this 8 dot, it will try to reading the 8th position of your data. The 8th position of my data is C. Understand? It will try to read it. But if I mention it as 8 dot, so then it will try reading it as a 8th character. Then whatever you are saying is right. N space onwards, E, M, B, A, D, you will get that one. So all these methods, every method what we have used right now is comes under input methods. All these input methods, the purpose is reading external data into SAS environment. Now I hope you are clear with all the concepts wherever we try to reading some lengths, at the rate signs, dollar signs and all. I hope you are clear now, right? Throughout SAS, wherever we have used these inputs and all. Am I clear on this one? Yes. This is about your different input methods. What we have in SAS, we covered today.